Hey everyone, Chef Nick Peters Bond here, and this is Commanding Your Kitchen. On today's episode, we're going to be doing seared scallops and risotto. I know, very controversial, very scary topic apparently, but I promise you, once you're in the comfort of your own home, not being screamed at on national TV, it actually is not that hard. Go figure. So I'll be diving into searing scallops. We're going to make a very delicious roasted mushroom risotto with some fresh spinach, and then we're going to sear those scallops to perfection, and I'm going to show you how to do that, okay? Alright everyone, these are the ingredients you're going to need to make our delicious risotto. First I have some maitake, cremini, and some oyster mushrooms. These are just my favorite types of mushrooms. You can feel free to use white button mushrooms, maybe some shiitakes. They just all have different flavor profiles, so make sure you're aware of that before you buy them. We have Parmesan cheese and mascarpone, which I always finish my risotto off with. That's what helps make it super creamy. I also have a little bit of butter and some olive oil to start. Lemon juice. This is called GST. Back in the day at my very first line cook job, we did all our mushrooms with garlic, shallots, and thyme. I just minced those all together, and that makes the perfect base for your mushrooms. As always, you need white wine for risotto. That creates a nice acidic balance. And then your rice. Okay, so first order of business with our roasted mushroom risotto is we're going to first cook the mushrooms in the pan, and then we'll take them out and then add our risotto because you really want to get that toasty flavor of the rice. So first up, let's do the mushrooms. So as you can see in the pan, I have about a tablespoon of oil. I'm going to add about a tablespoon of butter. I like the combination of oil and butter combined. And you can see this is very hot, starting to smoke a little bit, perfect for mushrooms. This may seem like an obscene amount of mushrooms for a few portions, but these cook down so much. So as these mushrooms saute a little bit, we're going to turn the heat up a little bit. You're going to want to get some nice caramelization on these. And then in a couple minutes, we're going to add in our garlic, shallots, and thyme. While the mushrooms sear away in our pan over here, I do have some stock that is boiling away. I made this from scratch, but store-bought is fine, as Ina Garden always says. In mine, I have some mirepoix, some bay leaf thyme, dried mushrooms, some shallots, a little bit of garlic. And that's just gonna boil away. This has been boiling for about, let's say maybe a half an hour, just cooking down. So our pan was scorching hot, but you can see that the mushrooms release so much liquid. So you're gonna wanna cook these down until you start to really smell the caramelization and all that liquid is gone. So the mushrooms are about halfway cooked. I'm going to add in our minced garlic, shallots, and thyme. The reason why we don't put this in before is because the garlic and shallots will burn before the mushrooms are done cooking, and we don't want that because burnt garlic literally ruins the flavor of everything it touches. So yes, it looks like a lot of shallots and garlic and thyme, but this is also going to be flavoring our rice as well. Once the rice is toasted, we're going to put the mushrooms back in. So to saute this for a couple more minutes, just until the mushrooms are caramelized and that raw garlic and those raw shallots are cooked through. So these mushrooms, you can see the caramelization. That's exactly where we want them to be. We're going to turn our heat down to low and remove them from the pan. I'm just going to put them in a bowl on the side for now. Don't worry about there being a few bits of stuff in the pan. That's totally okay because everything's going to go back in there anyways. I'm going to take the other tablespoon of oil, goes right into the pan. And now we're going to add our rice. So as you can hear, it's already starting to toast up nicely. You just need to toast your rice for about 1 minute total. You don't want to burn it. This just helps give it a nice nutty flavor and sort of activate those starches in the risotto. So as you can see, I added back in the mushrooms. There's not a ton of liquid in the pan. That's okay. That means the pan's really hot, which is good because we're about to add in our white wine, which is pretty crucial in this dish. I feel like it does help cut through some of the fat and riches that this dish has. Perfect. Now comes the part where you basically have to keep an eye on this. As you can see, the rice has already sucked up almost instantly all of that white wine. So now we're going to take some of our stock that we made and we're going to slowly ladle it in. I always tell people maybe a cup to a cup and a half at a time max. You don't really need more than that. to start. So then slowly stir this up. When the stock is nice and warm, you want everything to be the same temperature. You can already see in the pan that that stock is almost looking creamy. It's because the rice is releasing some of those starches. So we're going to continue to add our stock in about a cup to a cup and a half inch increments until the rice is where I want it to be. And then we'll add in other ingredients. So you may be wondering, how do I know when to add more stock to my risotto? Well, this consistency, you can see the bottom. You can see the bottom when you push the risotto up, and it's starting to look a little creamier. And when you push the risotto away from the sides, not a lot of liquid fills in there. So when that happens, now it's probably safe to say that you should probably add a little bit more stock. Okay, so let's talk scallops for a moment. So here I have some smaller scallops. You could use up to sizes U10, which just means under 10 per pound. These are a little bit smaller than that. Scallops always seem to be intimidating for people, and I can totally understand why. The first time I cooked a scallop, I was very scared. However, as long as your scallops are dry, we're gonna pat them dry with a paper towel. I tell people get them fresh and get them dry packed, which just means there's no added liquid or salt water or anything added to the scallops. And so you can see the scallop here has this little piece on it. That's called an abductor muscle. And so that just easily is removed. And that is just a little more, it's a little harder than the rest of the scallop. It does not have the same creamy, nice texture as scallops can have. So I'm just gonna go through and take off and check all these scallops. To show you another one, peels right off. Put it to the side, you don't need to eat that. So while these scallops are searing for about 1.5 minutes on that side, I'm going to add in some fresh spinach to our risotto, just to give it a pop of color. This is an optional ingredient. About a cup of fresh spinach. Just fold that in, and it'll wilt on its own inside the risotto because the risotto still has that risotto heat. And this is the perfect time to do this while your scallops are cooking. Double duty, you know, just multitasking is really important in cooking, especially if you want to time things correctly. So I'm just folding that spinach, and I'm going to let it sit. And let's check on our scallops. So they come off pretty easily. That side looks like it's a little longer. That's like a really nice seared scallop right there. You'll know. If they pull up and you're like, you know what, I want a little more color on them, then flip them back over. No big deal. My biggest thing is don't overcook them. So I would say 30 seconds on the other side, and then you turn the pan off. That one is a little longer. And so this pan is still on high. So now that I flip my scallops, you can see they all have a really nice golden brown seared texture. That was probably about a minute to 20 seconds on that side. We flip it over, let it go for about 30 more seconds, and then you're gonna turn the heat off because you don't want to overcook these. So I'm gonna turn the heat off completely. I put about 2 teaspoons of butter in there, and I'm just gonna baste them just like I did our steak in our last video. You could add some fresh thyme in here if you wanted to. I just don't want to overpower the flavor of the scallops, and I think butter, the sweet butter flavor complements those perfectly. So that's all I need for this. And so right away, you can already see the beautiful shine that the butter gives, as well as it's going to give it flavor and help finish cooking those scallops. I'm going to set these aside and then finish our risotto. So now the time has come to finish off our risotto. Our scallops are resting. So to finish the risotto, I always do a little bit of lemon juice. That was probably about half of a lemon. That just brightens the dish back up because we are going to be adding a lot of creamier elements into this. And you can see, you could probably serve the risotto just like this. Look how creamy that looks, look how starchy that rice is. The spinach is still retained some of its color, it's still green and pretty, but we're gonna take it a step further. Every restaurant I've ever worked in, we always finished our risottos with mascarpone cheese. This is just like a lightly flavored Italian cream cheese. It's just not as, I would say not as pungent as American cream cheese can be. That was probably about 1/4 cup. This recipe is definitely not for the faint of heart in terms of watching your waistline. So that will just melt in and make that risotto super creamy. And then I'm gonna take that little block of Parmesan cheese I had. You could use already grated Parmesan cheese. I wouldn't necessarily use the kind that comes in that green can. You all know what I'm talking about. That one's just not as nutty as this Parmigiano Reggiano is. I would say a 1/4 cup of this as well. And at any point while you're adding these and you think, you know what, my risotto's a little tight, it could be a little bit looser in terms of the texture. It's not as creamy or as thin as I want it. You could add a little bit more stock, but wait till after you add in all this stuff. So swing it around. This looks absolutely delicious. You can see all those beautiful mushrooms in there. I'm gonna add a splash more stock just to kind of thin it out a little bit. Because you don't want risotto to be too thick. It has to be just the perfect consistency. I usually tell people if you can shake it on a plate and it spreads out but just a little bit, that's the perfect consistency. So this is the exact consistency you're looking for, the risotto. When you move it across the pan, it slowly starts to fill in. It's super creamy, has that great fortified mushroom flavor from our stock as well as from those roasted mushrooms. It's gonna go perfectly with those scallops. All right, now let's plate up our risotto. I started putting some on this rectangle plate. Just gonna make it a little bougie because you know what, why not? We're not really going out to eat anymore and you might as well make something look pretty for yourself at home. Takes a few of these scallops. And rest them on there. Feel free to buy bigger scallops if you want to. These just happen to be what I had available at my local fish market. A color, so I'm gonna do a little bit of chili oil on top. You don't have to do this. This just to me adds a little bit of depth of flavor as well as color. And you know what else would be really pretty on this? A couple more of those fresh spinach leaves. I'm just gonna take a few of these extra little spinach leaves and put them right on top. Just brings out that green color, makes it look more like a restaurant quality meal, like you're using almost microgreens, but in reality it's just a little baby spinach. I'll have one more piece. And that's it. That's our mushroom risotto with our seared sea scallops and a little bit of spinach and some chili oil right on top for you. As always, thank you for watching today's video. If you like videos like this, please give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel, as well as press the notification bell if you want to be notified for when I post my new videos. I try to post them every week with the video dropped here and there. And that's it. So guys, always remember, you got this.